Hello and welcome to Don't Feed the Geeks, presented by the Long Island Comic Guys, the masters of the geeky verse. Well, welcome back, Geek Freaks. We have another exciting episode for you guys today. I am TC, joined today by
JJ.
And
hi, I'm Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy.
That's Toy Story, also known as Matt. That was interesting.
You keep telling me to do something.
Yeah. I think the snake in the booth thing is fine. We're very resistant to the snake in the booth. Or the Infinity and Beyond. Those are the really no-brainers.
I'm not feeling it.
He seems to not. He doesn't seem to like those two for some strange reason. I don't get it.
I don't really know if there's a better one. We'll workshop it. I'm going to spend the entirety of my weekend figuring out the perfect catchphrase for you.
And you know what's sad? He's going to do that.
Oh, yeah. You're going to have 65 texts about different catchphrases by 11 p.m. tonight.
That's so funny.
All right, guys. We have a really awesome episode for you today. We're interviewing Anthony Desiato. He did this really cool documentary called My Comic Shop Country. He's a friend of our buddy Jeff. He kind of helped us, reach out and get in touch with him. So he's going to tell us all about, kind of his journey into comics and, how he got into, what made him decide to do the documentary. So we're really excited to share that interview with you. It's something that was really cool. We hope you all go out and watch the the documentary called My Comic Shop Country. It was really good. We all really enjoyed it. I mean, anyone who's a comic fan and has their own comic shop will absolutely love this. So highly recommend you guys go and check that out.
Recognize a lot of faces in it too.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, especially people in the Northeast area. Mm-hmm. You're going to know a bunch of people in this documentary. Mm-hmm. But before that, we're going to do something we haven't actually done in a while. A kind of traditional geek beat.
Somewhat traditional, even though we only have one thing to talk about.
We're gonna spice it up a little bit, but as always, we're gonna send that over to Toy Story to take it away.
So this news just came out today when we're recording this, which is Friday, June 5th, and this is huge. So DC announced today that they are cutting ties with Diamond Comic Distributors. So for those of you that don't know, the way comic shops get their books, they get them through mostly like 99%, this one distributor, Diamond Comics. Marvel, DC, Image, IDW, they all go through Diamond, and they have for years. Ever since any of us have been
25 years, right?
Yeah. They've been around forever. They're like they've I don't think they've ever been the only ones in the game, but they're definitely like they account for the bulk majority of them.
And this is run by Steve Geppi, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Oh, he runs Diamond?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think he's the founder of Diamond. Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah. So today, all the retailers, any comic shops, got this message this email from DC, basically saying, we're cutting ties with Diamond. Here's other distributors you can go through now to get us. So it's essentially there's 3 other distributors now that'll be handling DC's books.
Yeah.
Now these are not. These are new distributors, from my understanding, right? They haven't been in the game at all.
No,
right?
they're not new. They're just small. From what I understand, they're smaller. So 2 of them are Lunar Distribution and UCS Comic Distributors. That's where they'll be able to get the weekly books from. And then if they want graphic novels and stuff, Penguin Random House.
That's crazy. It's definitely going to be a pain for the comic shops for sure.
Yeah.
Because now they have to go through 3 different places to make their orders as opposed to 1.
And no more DC in previews.
I know. So that's gonna kind of stink. I read like the thing that DC said, and it's like, it's supposed to make the comic experience a better experience. It's assuming, I think the assumption that comic book readers only read DC comics is a very incorrect assumption, because there's probably people who do only read DC, but I have to imagine the majority of comic readers read across the spectrum of different publishers.
100%.
And to make them do that, it's kind of a pain in the butt. And granted, I don't order through previews. I've actually thought about it in the past, but I just, I send my weekly polls to Best Comics. They always pull what I need, and that's how I've done it pretty much since I've got into this for the past 7 years.
I used to, when I was doing weeklies, I did previews.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I liked it because I'd get all the image books that would always run out the day they came out.
Yeah.
I'd pre-order them. They're mine, because I ordered them 2 months in advance. But
do you get to see all the covers too when you do that, or you don't?
Most of the time, yeah. A lot of times they won't have variants and stuff ready yet. But 2 months out, they usually have enough. But it was great because you could order everything in one place. Now, what are customers who do previews going to do?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be frustrating for them. And those are definitely I feel like the old school people all do it that way too. It's definitely something that people have grown accustomed to, and it's going to be kind of annoying.
I also wonder why. What happens?
So, go ahead.
So this shouldn't be really surprising news, because wasn't this talked about right when we kind of went into lockdown?
I feel like they were going to announce this 3 months ago, and then COVID hit, and they didn't.
Yeah, because I had a feeling that this was coming. I mean, it's a big surprise. I kind of thought it was going to happen. I assume that it was happening because Diamond did pull out. They shut operations down during the virus. That's what I thought. Maybe there's more to it.
I think there's probably a lot of different factors. I think DC is trying to cut out the middleman. Now, it's funny because...
Yeah, but they're going through 3 other middlemen now. I'm
sure this is going to come up in our interview. I think this is going to be definitely bad for the comic shops. I think DC is trying to get their hands directly to the consumer. And I don't know, it just seems like... I've also heard, and this is just rumors, I don't know if there's any truth to this, DC is trying to push to have their stuff be released on Tuesday as opposed to Wednesday.
That would be nuts. So
it's just, that'd be another separate day that all the Wednesday warriors would have to now I have to go and get my DC books on Tuesday. And I think it's going to, me personally, I would just wait for the one day to get everything. But it's just going to, cause people to have to do another thing.
So I just sorry, go ahead.
That would disrupt a lot of people, I would think. Have to go out 2 different days.
Yeah.
Especially for people who have to go to when you go to Midtown, you have to go in there and kind of rush. I can only imagine that would be a scene because, there's a special DC variant this day, and then tomorrow I got to come back because there's a special Marvel variant this day, which, I think we were saying it before. We wouldn't be surprised if Marvel tries to pull, something very similar. If Marvel pulls out too, I can't imagine Diamond's going to be able to stay
I don't know.
with just the independent.
I think the article said too that they were having money troubles also, paying some bills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just found Steve Geppe's statement, Diamond's statement today, if you guys want to hear.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, go for it.
Today DC sent, this is Steve Geppe. Today DC sent out a retailer communication indicating that they are ending their long-standing relationship with Diamond. In April, we were informed that DC was going to begin distributing products through additional partners. At that time, they asked us to submit a proposal for a revised agreement with the understanding that Diamond would continue to be one of their distributors, which we promptly did. Then they requested an extension to June 30th because of coronavirus. And then last week, DC requested an additional extension through July. We responded with questions, and DC indicated they will reply today, June 5th. Instead of receiving a response today, we received a termination notice.
Well, I guess this is the first order of business from Jim Lee, huh? It's pretty cut and dry there.
Yeah.
I guess at the end of the day, it's a business. I don't know. I've heard a lot of complaints, from the Diamond side and previews too about how, and again, we even hear it in this documentary about how, companies are forced to order so far in advance and they don't know what people are going to want and what they don't. So, if they're trying to make that experience better, maybe it's a good thing, but I honestly don't know. It's just
I'm curious if they'll still adhere to the 2-month out thing.
Yeah, I have no idea if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Honestly, it's kind of until further notice. I think.
Yeah, I feel like more is going to come out about this too.
Oh, 100%. You're going to hear more and more. Once the poop hits the fan.
Yep. Exactly.
Crazy.
But yeah, that's the kind of the biggest news. So. We recorded this on Friday, so this literally just happened.
Happened today. It's crazy.
If there's any more information out by the time this is released, 3 days from now.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll post.
We'll talk about it on Instagram. But speaking of that, so what did we do first? You want to talk about Free Comic Book Week?
Yeah, let's do that.
How crazy was that?
That oh my God, Free Comic Book Week. It was Free Comic Day essentially.
It basically was. Diamond has their clause in that, so we have to call it IG Free Comic Week.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. We did it with a bunch of other comic book vendors and shops. And it was amazing. Everybody had to follow all of us. There was about 10 other accounts and the IG Free Comic Book Week account as well. Minor Keys. Is it Minor Key Comics?
Minor Keys Comics, yeah.
Yeah, and Bucky's Books, We Can Be Heroes. They kind of spearheaded a lot of the effort, but it was amazing. The turnout, we hit maximum capacity pretty much day one. I think the initial amount of free books that we were planning on was 300, and we bumped it up to 360. So it's been amazing. We saw a lot of new followers. It was great for us. It was great for the community. I think it was a really nice thing. I think the main point was a really big thank you to everybody to, throughout all this craziness that's going on and, coronavirus and everything else. It was a real, way to say thank you to the community. And, we gave a ton of books away. I think we gave away a lot of kind of good books too. I mean, we weren't giving away Hulk 181s, but there were some nice books circulating around there. We gave some of our stickers and business cards as well out to people. So it was fun. We saw it was definitely worth it from our end just to, say thank you. But, we got a great response back too. And it was all positive responses. So that's always good. So.
Excited for people to start getting their books.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Because I don't know what, if anything, they're expecting.
Yeah, I was I definitely didn't send if I sent a slightly beat up book, it was like a Silver Age book.
Yeah,
it was just it was a pretty nice Silver Age book.
I
didn't send anything less than a 5 out, and that was the only a Silver Age.
I think I have a few $10 books in my.
Oh yeah, there's definitely. I sent out I actually sent out a Free Comic Book Day book that was probably a $10 to $15 book.
Nice.
But
it's funny. I've got hundreds of those Free Comic Book Day books.
Some of them are worth good money.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Some of them are.
You have to look. There's out of all of them, I think maybe 10 to 15 are kind of money books.
Yeah.
Well, I've got boxes of them.
That's awesome. All right. So that was cool. We all had fun with that. And then we are also getting involved in something else. So you're going to hear more about this tomorrow because we're going to be going live with Minor Key Comics again. And we're going to be showcasing some of the stuff that we're going to be vendoring at Con 2 with Elite Comics 11. I think Elite Comics 11 will be streaming tomorrow as well.
You should
definitely look into that. Follow us on Instagram at LIComicGuys.com, LIComicGuys for that information. We'll share who's going to be kind of streaming it, but I know we're doing it with Minor Keys.
Yeah.
But we're getting involved at Con 2.
Yeah.
Super exciting. It's going to be a lot of work. I don't think we can say what day and time slot and everything yet. I think that's still in the wraps. But what do you guys think? You guys excited?
I'm super excited. Yeah. I'm
excited
happy
and nervous.
I'm happy to sell our own stuff instead of just helping other people.
It has been great to help everybody else, and we were happy to do that. But I think now we deserve a little bit of our own. So.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
It's do you guys have anything that you are really excited to get out and share with people?
In terms of what we have to sell?
Books. I won't say them by name, but you're looking to move Silver Age or Golden Age or variants.
Mr. JJ?
Well, probably mostly variants and variants.
All right. Excellent.
I got 2 nice silver and bronze runs. Mr. TC knows about them. He helped me grade some of them.
Yeah.
and then I got 2 not huge huge keys, but lower on the lower end of the grading scale. Affordable big keys.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
is that a way to describe it?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I've got a cool. I'm not going to say what title it is, but it's 1 through I think about 30, which I'm going to. Hopefully, they'll probably all get wiped out. I would imagine.
Ooh, I'm excited. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'll have to talk about this afterwards.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I have a little bit of everything. I've got some moderns. I've got variants. I have a ton of graded.
Yeah, you got a nice spread.
Yeah, I have a couple silver and bronze age runs that I want to put out there as well. I think we're looking, a good mix. We're not trying to do all big money books, although there will be a few. Mm-hmm. And then we're gonna have, stuff in like the, $15 to $25 range. Just hot. Some stuff that's hot, that's new and modern. Some bigger keys that from the silver and bronze age. But I think we're gonna have better than we even expect at this point.
Yeah.
Because we keep talking about it, and it's just like, oh yeah, I forgot we had that.
Yeah. At first we were like, oh, do we have enough cool stuff?
Yeah, and it's. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'll be honest, I love doing that stuff. Even when we've done it for other people, I just love doing it. Like I would do, aside from the physical exhaustion you feel, I would do like a comic convention every day.
Yeah.
I would literally do it every day. If I didn't have to pack and repack, I would do it every day. If I could just show up with all the books set up and just sell all day, and even if it's not like a ton of people, I love doing that stuff. I think it's immensely fun.
It is.
It's something that you're passionate about. And, I would never call specific. I don't think a lot of people who do that enjoy it that much.
You're right.
Like, hey, dude, find another hobby. I was like, or do something else. I was like, if you're in too deep, I get it, but I don't know. I've said too much. I've jumped too far.
That's
all right.
No, you're
all good.
Are we done now? So
yeah, we're done.
Be on the lookout for that, guys. Make sure you tune into our Instagram live. I think it's going to be at 8:00 tomorrow, which is the 11th?
9th.
The 9th. Sorry. Tomorrow, the 9th at 8 p.m., we're going to be going live with Steve from Minor Keys. I don't know what account it's going to be on, but the information should already be out there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
good stuff.
How about we move on to our interview with Anthony Desiato?
Let's do it.
All right, everyone. We're very excited to introduce our guest today, creator of the incredible My Comic Shop Country documentary that was recently released, Anthony Desiato. Anthony, welcome to the show. Welcome to Don't.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to do this.
Yeah, well, we're really excited to talk about the documentary. We've all seen it at this point, which should be good since we're going to ask you about it and talk about it. It definitely, and we know as much as some other people, it gives you incredible insight into the inner workings of a comic book shop. But before we get into that, what we like to do with all our guests is talk about your comic or geek origin story in the world of geek and stuff like that. So what was your first once you emerged from the nest, what was the first geek thing that caught your eye you reached for?
Sure. So it's funny because like on my podcast, I've told this story so many times. Like I know my listeners are sick of hearing it. But I love telling it because it's like one of those moments that like really set me on a path, right? That ultimately led to this. So for me, I was 5 years old. It was late '92. Death of Superman was out, and I was at the White Plains location of Heroes World, the now defunct chain, and it was holiday time, and I was with my parents, and we were in front of we came upon the store, and in the window display they had put a little Superman action figure in a box to mimic a coffin, and that was how they promoted the Death of Superman. And it's like I knew who the character was. Like I had seen some of the movies. Again, I was 5 years old. I was little, but like I knew who the character was. I think I had the action figure. So it caught my attention, and I don't even know what sort of like conception of death I even had at that point. Like I don't know, but it really caught my eye. And my parents brought me in. They bought me the collected edition of the Death of Superman. Yeah. Now stuff comes out in trade real quick. Then it didn't, but DC put that one out like right away. Yeah. And that was it. And I was hooked. My dad read it to me, and then shortly thereafter, I was reading on my own. And Superman's my favorite character. I've been a fan ever since. And so that moment in front of Heroes World, that was it for me.
Yeah, same for me. I probably read that same collection. It's probably like the second or third comic thing I'd ever read, but it was definitely awesome.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad about telling the same stories. That's all we do. I think that's all podcasters do is tell
Yeah.
the same stories over and over. What's the
Yeah,
name
it's
of
the
your
first time for
podcast?
someone new. Mine is My Comic Shop History.
My Comic Shop. Oh, awesome!
Nice.
I like that. Very nice. All right, so after you're done listening to our podcast, go listen to Anthony's My Comic Shop History.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, how did you first find yourself at Alternate Realities?
So I grew up in Hartsdale, and Alternate Realities was in Scarsdale, just one town over. So I think, like most comic book fans, right, you check out all the stores that are in the area at some point. Although, like, Heroes World was my store. That was my go-to place.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember there was one time I think they might have sold out of, like, an issue of Supergirl or something that I wanted to read. And so I went to Alternate Realities, and they had it. And so AR was kind of the place I would go, just kind of sporadically, or if there was something I couldn't get at Heroes World. And then it's somewhat of a traumatic experience. One day I went to the mall where Heroes World was, and the store was gone. They had closed. They had closed and cleared out in the 2 weeks since I had last been there. And the last time I was there, like, there was no indication of no signs, no nothing. And again, I was in elementary school. Like, it was, I don't want to oversell it. Traumatic is maybe a little bit much, but it was like,
For a kid, that's pretty traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just gone. And I remember I was with my mom, and I remember, like, she took me into the store. It was like a shoe store, or like a sneaker store next door. And she was like, "Did the Heroes World move like that?" We were holding on to that little bit of hope that maybe it was just else, because it's a mall. It's like, all right, maybe
they're
they just moved to a
upstairs. They're
different
there, right?
Nope, like, that was it. And it's funny, I did an episode on Heroes World on my podcast last year, and it was hard to, like, I ended up just interviewing Steve Odo from Alternate Realities. He had actually worked at Heroes World.
Oh, wow.
For a brief period of time, but it was hard, like, to even track anyone down. Like, I couldn't find, and I only had like first names of people who worked there. Yeah, it was tough. Wow. But so once Heroes World was done, that's when AR became the go-to spot for me.
Nice. So you went there up until they closed, essentially.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I worked there throughout high school and college and law school, and and then the store closed 5 years ago. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary this month.
Yeah, we'll get into it then, but that was definitely the hardest part of watching the documentary for us. Yeah, especially. I think anyone who has a local shop, it was just like, it was like a gut wrenching part of the movie, the film.
Yeah, no, for me too. It was from the start, like, I knew sort of we would open and close on the way that we did, and then as I was putting it together, I had the idea for those little interludes, because I kind of wanted to have that, like, emotional connective tissue throughout the movie. And I thought, this really is the most personal aspect of this. Like, as much as we talk about the business and the back issues and the collectability, like, all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
This was an opportunity to really show, like, I mean, you see it in the other aspects too, but, like, to really show what it means. And also, like, throughout the movie, we're talking about all the struggles that a shop faces, and what's in the background of all of that is if those struggles are too much, like, a store could close. And so here's the story. This is what happens when a store closes and how it affects the people. So I thought it would connect well in that way too. But yeah, that was for me, obviously the most personal part.
So is that the reason you made the documentary, because that happened?
Yes and no. In the sense that it was AR's closing that kind of set me on this path to start to try to figure out, like, okay, what I experienced at Alternate Realities, was that happening at other stores? Were those other communities, forming there? So in that sense, yes, but it wasn't like I made the movie because I wanted to chronicle the closing on film or anything like that. But yeah, without, and that's the very bittersweet part about all of this, is that if AR hadn't closed, like, I wouldn't have started my podcast, and we wouldn't have this documentary. So some cool stuff has come from it, but I still miss my shop.
Yeah, of course. It's years of memories, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
All right. So what made you choose to use Kickstarter to do this this platform?
The fundraising.
Yeah.
The fundraising.
I don't know. Do any of you guys have experience with crowdfunding?
Doing
just
it?
buying.
No. Yeah, just buying.
Yeah, being a supporter, not
Gotcha.
starting one.
Well, and that's no small thing, but yeah, as far as running a campaign, it's not for the faint of heart. Like, it's really it's a big undertaking. But I knew I had done 3 documentaries prior. One that was fully about alternate realities years before it closed, and then a couple of others as well. And it was the equipment that I had was very basic, and it allowed me to do what I needed to do. But I knew for this one, I kind of wanted to get to the next level, and so I raised, a relatively modest amount. I mean, it was $15,000 through this Kickstarter, which was a lot to me. But at the same time, when you talk about a film budget, that's real small. But that allowed me to get the new equipment that I wanted to work with. And so, I'm really happy with the finished product and the aesthetic we were able to achieve, especially compared to what I had done before. So, it was to enable me to, again, get that equipment and make a little bit more of a polished product. But also, and I guess this is the other thing with crowdfunding, like the value in it is that it allows you to gauge if there's an audience for this. And so if the Kickstarter hadn't worked, obviously I would have been disappointed, of course, but I would have been I think I would have had some measure of peace to say, okay, I tried. There's just not enough people who want to see this movie, from me at least.
Yeah.
But thankfully that didn't happen. But so those were the 2 reasons to do it.
That was a great point. I was just, I didn't even think about it that way. I was like, if people want to see it, they'll get behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really true. Go ahead. Sorry.
Now, how did you work out, broadcasting this out to people? I mean, because Kickstarter is you got to be part of really Kickstarter to know what the campaigns are. Like, did you do email blasts? Like, how did you
spread the word
for this?
Yeah, there were a lot of parts to it. It's really funny because a friend of mine recently did a Kickstarter, she and her business partner, for like an aerial studio, and they put their Kickstarter together like so fast. They had never done one before, and it succeeded. And I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, I can't believe it, because I so much went into this, and there was such a long build up to it for me. I just tried to, again, not having had the experience before, I really just thought, I wanted to set myself up for success and cover as many bases as possible. And, looking back, I don't know, maybe I could have scaled back a little bit. I don't know, but thankfully everything worked. But, one of the main things that I did was the 3rd season of my podcast was really leading up to the Kickstarter. And so in that season, that was when I started visiting other stores just with the podcast. So no filming or anything yet. But I started visiting other shops, and that was that did a number of things for me, because in every episode I mentioned the Kickstarter's coming, the Kickstarter's coming, the Kickstarter's here. So that helped. It was a bit of casting for the movie. Like, most of the stores that were in that season are in the documentary. So that was helpful. It gave me the tools creatively that I would use to tell the story. Because again, my experience had been very singular. It had been really at alternate realities for years. And because I was so enmeshed in the alternate realities world, it's not like I went to a ton of other shops. Like, once alternate realities was my place, I worked there, I shopped there. That was pretty much it. So it was really helpful to go to the other stores, for that purpose as well. And that season in particular, I think, helped grow the podcast audience, because each time I would go to a store and they were on the episode, they would share that brought me new listeners. So that helped. And then I was able to get a good bit of press within the comics industry. So we were on Newsarama and 13th Dimension and Bleeding Cool and all of that. Yeah. And that, I think that helped a lot as well. And I had an email list, and I did all, I covered as many bases as I could.
Yeah,
and a lot went into the rewards too as well.
So not only did you do all that, but you also wrote this, you directed it, you produced it, you did everything to this thing. That's got to be a whole challenge on itself, right? I mean, to do everything from start to finish. Was there any enjoyment? Was there a part of that you really enjoyed doing? And on the other hand, what part was the worst part of it all?
Yeah, no, it would be terrible if I didn't enjoy any aspect of it.
Well,
but your question is a good one, because it was a lot to balance, especially the fact that I have a 9-to-5 day job. So and especially that a project like this involved a lot of travel. Thankfully, I was able to kind of combine some work travel with filming, so that helped in a number of ways. But yeah, it was a large undertaking. I think, you know, as I'm sure you guys know, like when you have the passion for something that carries you through a lot of it. I mean, as far as the pieces that I enjoyed the most, again, I love hosting the podcast. So I think my favorite part of filming was conducting the interviews. That was probably my favorite part. And it's sad because, you know, I filmed, you know, probably about an hour with each on-camera sit-down interviewee, and you know, you only see it like a couple of minutes in the actual movie. But that piece I probably enjoyed the most. And as far as the least favorite, the scheduling, it was a huge puzzle.
Not as simple as just going into the shop one day and saying, "Hey, you want to, you know, do this?"
Yeah, well, I know, because like when I did the first documentary about alternate realities years earlier, I did that the summer after my first year of law school, and so I just had that summer devoted to. But it was one location. It was 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah,
I knew everybody. It was just, you know, the logistical hurdles were so low compared to this one. But you know, we did it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
How do you go about choosing what shops you wanted to feature in the documentary?
Yeah, I know, it's funny because everybody asks that, and it's a natural question. Like if I were interviewing myself, I would be asking that same question. I wish I could say there was like some secret formula to it, but it was a mix of the creative and the practical and the logistical, because there were some places, for example, I had a work conference in Vegas.
So you went to Torpedo
during the time of filming. That's how we got to Torpedo Comics and Alternate Reality Comics. And it's funny because, you know, I look at the movie now and it's like, if we didn't have those stores, especially Torpedo with that vault of high-end back issues, it's like, you know, that was such a big piece of it. And, you know, I've seen it play at screenings and stuff, and like people, you know, always have a reaction at that point. And so it's crazy to think about that not being there, but that was really very serendipitous that I happened to be there. So there was that piece of it. And then also the creative side was trying to show as much of a cross section as I could. And the movie's called My Comic Shop Country, so I knew I had to make it across the country. Yeah. And you know, find stores, some that had been around for a long time, others that were younger. And you see this in the movie, you know, sort of the debate between the older, like the old school shops, and then the newer breed. So I knew I wanted to capture that as well. So those were sort of the two factors that were behind the stores that I picked.
Were there any shops that you filmed that weren't part of it?
Sadly, there was one in Chicago, First Aid Comics, and they were on the podcast, you know, in that season 3. And it was just, I had limited real estate. You know, I knew I kind of wanted that run time to be around 90 minutes, and it just didn't quite fit. But through no fault of, I mean, it was, you know, they're great. I don't know if you're familiar with the store, but the owner and his staff, they wear lab coats. You know, it's called First Aid Comics. So they wear lab coats or medical coats. Great. And their whole shtick is like they're prescribing comics to you as medicine. So it was cool. It just didn't fit.
I really do enjoy stuff like that, though. Like when you can do like something fun like that, it adds like another layer of like quirkiness, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But no, other than that, I mean, every place that I filmed made it in.
Yeah.
Again, some stores obviously get more play than others, but they're mostly all there.
I want to go to every single one now that I haven't already been to, at least.
What was it like to hold that Action Comics one at Metropolis?
Oh, it was so cool. It's really funny.
You must have seen some cool stuff there.
Yeah, it was. Well, it's funny because the showroom, they were, I think, in between exhibits, so there wasn't a ton in the showroom where we filmed the interviews. So I interviewed Vincent Zerzola, who obviously I know you know, in that room, and then Paul Levitt's, his interview was also filmed in that room. There wasn't a ton going on because they were between exhibits, and then, you know, there's the shot I'm following Zerzolo through like their stacks of long boxes, but that was relatively quick that we went through there. I mostly just saw the boxes, and then it was the action one. But so I can't say I saw a ton else there, although there's so much original art on the wall. It's really gorgeous. But the action one, it's really funny because, you know, we mentioned at the top, right? Like I got into comics with Superman, and Death of Superman is my favorite character. And Superman is this little recurring theme in the movie because we open on the Action Comics 1000 release. Then we have the Action 1. Then there's the Action 1000 signing. And again, none of this was planned, but it worked out really nicely for me. But
I enjoyed it too. I'm a big Superman guy.
Nice. But yeah, no, holding that was.
I mean, that's the book. you know.
It's as cool as you would think it would be. And
Yeah.
like the thing about it that really I was surprised by was if you had told me that I would have the reaction that I did, I would have said, I mean, I don't know. Like I've seen photos of it, it is what it is. But when you hold it, like you just really feel the history of it. It was something. I think it gave me new insight for why people, because I've never been a vintage high-end back issue collector, and I'm still not. But it gave me a newfound understanding of why people are, because it really does something when you hold that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Trust me, when you were holding that, my first thought was in my mind, secretly, I was like, now run. Run.
I'm still holding out hope I'm going to open up a box one day and find one.
Yeah, everybody, you and everybody else.
So I think kind of what hit the closest to home, especially for us, is when all you guys like were talking, all the, former current employees of alternate realities, you guys are all a very close-knit family. It wasn't just the people who worked there, but, the regulars who came in, and it mirrored our experience. And it's kind of similar to our story on like, Wednesdays we'd go buy books and, we get dinner and drinks afterwards. And, we talk for hours about stuff outside of comics, stuff people don't care about outside of comics. And did you notice there was kind of like the same like crew or clique at every shop you kind of went to on your travels?
Not every, but in fairness, some stores I was there on a Wednesday, and I think I did get a sense that yes, these are the people who were there every Wednesday.
Wednesday warriors.
Yeah, and then other stores where it was maybe more of an off time, I didn't quite see that, but that's not to say that it's not there.
Yeah.
I think, and again, that was the interesting thing for me because I had found my tribe at my store, and seeing that even if it doesn't exist in exactly the same form elsewhere, but the same type of thing is happening, like those same types of conversations. And so that was really nice to see. As much as I still like to think our store still had something a little special, but seeing that this, it's just the importance of having that space, to come together and share something that you're passionate about. And sadly, this is something that was hard to come by before, right? You don't have as many opportunities for meaningful face to face, but especially now. Yeah. Where we've all been in lockdown and everything's been shut. I think you really realize how much you crave having that, and so that's why I'm glad we were able to kind of capture what that having that space means to people.
Yeah, I think us especially, you also, we've been lucky because we're still kind of doing comic stuff. Like people who are just going to the shop every Wednesdays, they're probably still talking to their friends and stuff like that, but we're kind of still actively doing stuff. It must be harder for people who are kind of like outside of like the world and like just itching to get back in kind of deal.
Yeah, no, for sure. I know it's a tough thing when you have something that's that much a part of your routine. And yeah, like you said, it's like we can sort of, do things like this to kind of fill in the gaps a little bit. If you don't have that, no, it's a tough thing.
Yeah, it's not the same for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So one thing that I feel like I've always thought, but it really watching this whole documentary, by the end of it, I was like, oh, absolutely. Every comic shop I feel like is completely different, unique, has its own personality. It's like I feel like there's almost no two that are the same, unless it's like Newberry Comics or something. What were some things that like stood out to you when going to all these shops that when you walked in, you're like, holy crap, that's something I've never seen before?
Oh, interesting. But I mean, let me let that marinate for a second. But what you're saying, I mean, I think that's, that was maybe the most interesting thing for me. And what I wanted to show in this is the commonality amongst the stores in terms of what they can do for people and the challenges that they face, but then also how you do have this variety, and each store really does have its own flavor, in large part due to the people generally, but in particular the retailer. I mean, the retailer really sets the tone for the store and really gives it a lot of that personality. So it was cool to be able to show that. Yeah, I mean, as far as things that I was surprised by, I mean, I mentioned it before, but Torpedo, going in Vegas and seeing, the entire layout, but especially that
it's a huge
vault.
store, right?
Yeah, it is large. And then seeing that bank vault was just incredible. That really was so striking. And this is such a stupid little thing, but they, for their regular back issue, like the back issue bins, they double and triple board all of their back issues, which I don't know. That just struck me. I'm always fascinated. Like, this is such a stupid thing, but we used to bag our trade paperbacks at Alternate Realities. Every graphic novel on the shelf was bagged, and to me, it made sense. And I always thought that was just the thing. And as I've gone to all these stores, I'm like, bag your trades. And I've come to realize we were very unusual in that respect. But yeah, with Torpedo, like, that was definitely something that was really striking.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's funny you said that, because I just got one of their mystery boxes this last week. They do these mystery boxes. So I got the first one, and every single book, they were all Marvel books. They were all older books, but every one had 3 backboards in it.
Whether it's a $5 book or a $500 book, they do that.
It was the strangest thing, and I'm like, why is there so many boards in it? I thought maybe they screwed up, and then I go to the second one. I'm like, there's 3 more in here, and then the third, fourth, and I'm like, this is
they really don't want
thing.
That.
No.
Is anyone allowed in that vault room? Is it like always open to like walk through, or do you have to like ask to see it?
That's a good question. I think it's. Yeah, you might have to ask. I don't know offhand if they keep the door open. I know Gabe in his interview, he's like, "This is your swipe your credit card ticket." They don't make you do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know offhand if they generally keep that just open for anyone to walk in.
Yeah, I don't know that I would if I owned the place.
Yeah, no, agreed. So since you spoke of like one of the people that were in it, there's also a lot of personalities from actual people that were very different in all of those. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I loved Lord Retail. He was my absolute favorite
nice.
out of everyone. Did you have like one of the favorites out of the actual people who like run the shop or like handle the day to day?
Oh, I can't play favorites.
I figured that was going to be your answer, but I was curious if you had one. Someone that really stood out.
No, I'll be genuine. I'll give you an answer, because when I have people on my show, I don't like when they're like, "Oh, I can't want to say."
Yeah.
So, I would say I definitely had a very positive experience with everyone and that is genuine. But some people, there was not necessarily any relationship that continued beyond the filming, and then there are other people who we've genuinely become friends.
Yeah.
And Lord Retail is one of them. Sean Hendricks at Fat Moose Comics is another. He's been on my podcast a bunch of times. So, there are those instances, and both of those guys, also, I think really lent a lot to the movie, and they were really fun to interview. And,
100%.
With Lord Retail in particular, and obviously he gets a lot of play in the movie. The whole, Acme's a great store, and it's been around a long time. They built up that community. So, I think it lends a lot to the movie in that sense, but just the whole Lord Retail alter ego, that was fun. Like, that was probably my favorite sequence of the movie to put together when we got into the personalities of Lord Retail and Ralph at Alternate Reality Comics and stuff like that. Because again,
the other one that was interesting.
Yeah, that was a fun sequence for me.
And it was like you were saying about the comic shops, no one has the same I feel like the people who run them all were like different flavors too, and like sometimes they match the shop identically, and then sometimes they don't, which is
completely.
But I want to go to every single one of those shops. I mean, I think we've been to a few. Like, we've been to Zap. We know those guys pretty well.
Yeah, we see them at every freaking show we go to.
Yes, yeah, I know, especially
every
in this
local show
area. They definitely have a strong presence, and they do their own con too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to go to that this year for the first time if all this didn't happen. But
I think we all were.
Yeah,
craziness. So one of the most the different shop that you had was one that was basically a comic shop and a coffee shop. Now, I love that idea. I think TC and we've talked about doing something stupid like that for like the longest time.
It was more of a bar and grill / comic book shop, but there was like a divider because like I don't want food in the comic book area.
Yeah.
But
I'm curious how that shop is set up. I mean, does she let people read comics while they're drinking coffee? Like, it's an interesting concept.
Great question, JJ. I didn't even think to ask that. And it was something that came up earlier.
It's funny because that was one of my first thoughts when I heard about the store. I'm like, and like, you bring your beverage where the comics are? Like, you might ruin them. There is a sign that says, like, please don't bring beverages into the comics area. And then I believe there's a sign where you have to purchase your comics before you would sit down in the cafe side to read them. But yeah, that was fascinating. And they're very active within their local community there, and we only touched on that a little bit. There wasn't as much time to get into that, but they really do a lot. That's a whole other side to what they do. But yeah, the business model aspect has been fascinating to me, and I don't know. I guess I'm kind of split because on the one hand, like I share what you were just saying. It's like why don't more stores do this? Because at least then, you can kind of have something to pick up the slack if the comics die to slow. But I think the challenge of it's like running two businesses in one, and especially when you're talking food. I mean, there's just a host of stuff that is involved with that. So I suspect that's probably why you don't see more of that.
Yeah. And I only know of one other one, and I think it's in Georgia. It's called Not Your Mother's Basement. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of this, but it's it's a bar, it's a comic book shop, it's an arcade. They actually do like gaming, D&D, and in this one area. And I only remember them because they just announced that they were opening back up again. But there's not too many. I would think something like this would take off and maybe grow the comic industry somehow, just to have this, because it's such a great idea. And I mean, she sparked on that. I love that idea, especially a coffee shop, because I love coffee and comics.
Well, right, that's the thing. I mean, there's a natural fit there. There's also, I think it's Iowa. There's a comic shop and it's like a donut shop combo. Because I think at some point they reached out to me. That's a good idea. I never made it there. I think it was Iowa, but yeah, coffee and donuts comics and donuts. I was not. So like there are a few, but yeah, not many.
So I guess on that kind of like same thread, was there like a common theme throughout all like the shops and the owners where, they see that the industry's going and, what they think would help to kind of like empower the comic book shop?
Good question.
Yeah, like did they predict that DC would drop Diamond?
that was going to be kind of my part B of that question is, how do they foresee that going?
I don't think they did. But as far as just moving forward generally, one of the things that I wanted to show in this are the various ways that shops are innovating to stay relevant, whether it's catering to those high-end collectors or carrying pops and a more diverse product line, or really leaning into events and things like that. Or like Escape Pod Comics on Long Island, like really carrying a much wider line of comics, not leaning into the superhero stuff so heavily. So that was one of the things that I wanted to show, like the different ways that shops are adapting. And so I think in that sense, I don't know that there were necessarily any stores, except maybe Parts Unknown in North Carolina. He was very much set on what they do. But he was funny. But I think really, again, with a couple of exceptions, pretty much everyone in the movie, recognizes sort of the transition period that the industry is in and the need to do something. And what that something is, again, I think varies shop to shop. Yeah. And, I rattled off a few examples. But so I think they all kind of are approaching it a little differently, but I think they all do recognize, the regular struggles that come with the day-to-day of running a store, but also these bigger picture challenges as far as just getting people into a store, trying to get some sort of crossover, right? Like we saw Oh Yeah Comics in the movie setting up at a movie theater, which like makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And, so that's one way to try to get that crossover. So I think they all recognize that, but I think where you have differing opinions is on what's the right way to address. And I don't think there is one right answer for all stores, because it depends on where you are and what your market is. And, even pops, as much as I like to have fun with the pops, it's not, I don't think every store should carry pops. If your customers aren't into it, why would you? But, whatever it is, I think there needs to be something that, that you can kind of lean into.
And one of the things that I like that I think it was as well is they try and cater to like that younger audience too, because that's the next generation. And I kind of take it as my responsibility. I know JJ does too, because he's a dad. Kind of getting our kids like say, hey, these movies are awesome, but this is really rich stories are coming from. They're only taking a fraction of what there is here and putting it into a movie. And I I think everyone I think more comic shops should focus as much as they can on getting that next generation in. And I know it's getting harder with all the, video games and digital everything. But it's really a special world that the thing that's strange is you don't understand it unless you become part of it. And I think once you become part of it too, it's just like, oh my God, like I didn't get into it as early as these other guys. I'm an early 80s baby, but I started really collecting in like 2013, and like I snowballed into it. Like I fell in, and there's no way getting out. I don't even know where the top is anymore. But it's just, I think people who kind of like the superhero movie, and again, I think this was echoed in your film. You got to try out the comics. Like, step into a comic shop and listen. I know that some are better than others, and try to do some research before you just jump into like a random comic shop. But it's a great community to be a part of.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, that is and again, I think that was important to show this attempt to try to capture the next generation, because and again, like, this is a larger question, but as far as whose responsibility is it to really nurture that next generation? Should it be these large the companies behind the movie studios, behind the publishers, or more like the boots on the ground retailers doing what you see doing and going to the theater? We could debate whose responsibility it really should be, but however, whoever's really behind it, I mean, I think there really does need to be that movement. And it's, I mean, again, we've all experienced it, but it's such a rich world, and so much value to it, and wherever you come to it. But I think especially if you come to it as a kid, just reading generally, is a great thing. And being able to get kids excited about reading through comics, why not? And then building those. And I think today more than ever, where everyone is so connected digitally, but to actually be in a place and have face to face, and learn how to have a conversation, things like that. There's so many pieces to it.
It's another life building skill too. I mean, like, especially for a lot of the comic book people can be shyer, like building relationships with one or two people. I mean, our group started as like 3 or 4 and grew to like 15 people. It looks like, from judging that dinner you guys were at, it was the same for you guys. But you can really immerse yourself. I mean, we've connected with so many people like across the country at this point too, as being a part of this community, people we wouldn't have talked to any other way, and it's just really great. Just out of curiosity, where do you get your comic books now, your new comic books?
It's funny. I'm not currently reading any monthlies. Anything I'm reading in trade. But Comics is in Harrison, so that's very close to me. I'm in White Plains, and Spider's Web in Yonkers is the other one. It's neither one is super convenient, and it's funny because we're talking with 20 to 30 minutes. It's not that big of a deal. But when Alternate Realities was there, I could be there 5-10 minutes, and it makes a little bit of a difference. But those are the 2 stores closest to me, and then Undiscovered Realm is right here in White Plains. That's where I get my pops.
Nice.
Nice.
So going back to Alternate Realities, at the moment the shop is dead. Is there any way to revive that?
I know. Well, I won't spoil the ending, but the way the movie leaves off, it's certainly something that if the right circumstances aligned, I would definitely be interested in bringing it back in some form. It meant so much to me, and if I were able to do it and sort of create that space that was there for me, I would love to. Obviously, there are a lot of different aspects to that. I think if there are a couple of other guys who were associated with the store, where if we kind of all decided we would do it, like, it's not something I would take on myself, but if
big thing to
there
do
were
for one
others
person.
if there were others who were kind of initiating it as well, and if there was the right people. And then, the financial aspect of this is a reality. So if there were a way that I could do it where, it wasn't overly burdensome, and I didn't have to rely on it for a living, at least to start. But it's interesting, I'm no expert, but I've worked at my store for a long time, and I've been to all these other sites. I've talked to a lot of retailers. I've seen a lot of shops. I mean, I like to think I would have some insight as to some of the pieces that might make for a successful store. So yeah, there's that aspect of it too, where it's like, oh, put your money where your mouth is. And people can really do this.
Yeah.
But it's funny because on my podcast last year, the last episode, I brought a few of the AR guys together and we sort of speculated, like, if we were ever to bring the store back, what would you need to have for it to be alternate realities? And it was an interesting little thought experiment, because it's like, well, would it have to be in the same spot or the same general area? Would it the same layout? Would, you know, Steve, the owner, like, what sort of presence, if any, would he need to have for it to feel like alternate realities? So that was kind of interesting to discuss, because that's the other, and that's the, I guess, the flip side of all of this is, it would break my heart if we tried to bring it back and it wasn't the same and it didn't work and it failed. Because as sad as it was that the store left, it left because Steve decided he had enough and he shut down, and that was it. It didn't go out of business. It wasn't, it wasn't like he had to close. He just got tired of doing it. And so the store got to have a finale, which, it was by his own choosing and everything. And, we had this cathartic, moment. We all came together. We broke down the store. That was it. We had a big dinner. So, it had its arc. And so to reopen that, I would be a little, not a little, but a lot, it would really have to be the right set of circumstances, but it's possible. Although,
act two.
Yeah. We talked about that too. It's like, do you just call it alternate realities, or do you have to put like a subtitle or something? I don't know.
So did the final product of the film come out to like the way you envisioned it, or was there anything that kind of like, you really wish would have happened?
No, I would say it's interesting because I didn't have a documentary, it's not fully scripted, but I didn't really have a script going into this. It was more like a lot of the story kind of came together as I was editing it. Like, I knew going into each story the questions that I was going to ask and things like that. But as far as exactly the form it would take and what the through line of it would be, I didn't really have at the outset. So I don't know that I had like as crystal clear a vision of like, this is what the finished product was going to be. I knew where I wanted to go and who I wanted to talk to and what I wanted to ask, but a lot of it came together as I was editing. But I'm very happy with how it came out. The little things like as far as something that didn't happen, I had hoped to go on a ride along with Ben from Zap Comics when because he goes around all the time buying collections. And he was on board with this, and the idea was, I would film him going to make a deal, and that would have been a really cool piece to include. But unfortunately, it was a little bit logistics and scheduling, but it was more that none of the potential sellers he was dealing with, no one wanted to be. And I said, I was like, we don't have to. I can cut out whatever people want cut out. Like I tried to, make it work, but people just weren't really comfortable having the deal on camera. So that was one thing that would have been neat to include, but but no, overall I got what I wanted to.
Nice. So it kind of at least met your expectations. Yeah. Nice. Awesome. So you've got a lot of buzz from it. We've noticed. Was there something that you were nominated for? I apologize. I tried to do my research, but I think I missed that part.
No, that's okay. It did. So it played at the Chain New York City Film Festival back in August. Awesome. And it did win an award. It was the Best New Work award, which was very nice. Very cool. My various projects have played at festivals, and I know it's like, it's an honor just to be nominated. But honestly, I'm always when any one of my projects gets into any festival, I'm happy that it got in. I'm never really thinking about awards. So to win something was really cool. And we did a Q&A after, and the moderator was one of the festival organizers, and this was like its first official screening, and he was just so into it and really got what the movie was about and what I was going for, and that was really gratifying. It was nice to get that outside feedback on it. So that was really cool.
Oh, we definitely think that we got it too. It was very well done. We really enjoyed it. I'm ready for a part 2.
Yeah, it's like, I know people have gotten the question a little bit where people have said, like, would you do a sequel? And I doubt it, and I know now, obviously, the comics retail landscape, has changed and is poised to continue to change as we're moving forward. I don't know that that's a story I would want to tell, like how the shops have, been hit so hard by the pandemic, and now, who knows what will happen now as far as comics distribution and the fallout of all of that. And I don't know. So nothing that's immediately on my horizon.
So
you can go. You can do this My Comic Book world and take it global.
Yeah.
Like, shops in
I'd like to see international
South Africa.
shops.
Yeah.
South Africa and anywhere else, Russia. Like, show me a Russian comic book.
It's so funny you say that, because that was my initial idea. Was my wife and I were thinking about a trip to Italy. We ended up not doing it, but my initial idea was like the last shot of the movie would be me in Italy walking into a comic shop, and the voiceover would be like, okay, like, we've explored America, now there's a whole world out there. And then so that was the initial idea, and then we flew to a few of these destinations to film My Comic Shop Country, and I saw just how challenging it was to get through the airport and security and the plane with the equipment, and that was just domestic travel. And I was like, you know what? I really don't think it would kind of be a lot to manage. But we'll see.
If you ever will change your mind, we'll co-produce with you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If there were maybe a larger operation behind it, but as far as like really self-starting something like that, there's a lot. But it would be cool. I mean, that the thought definitely was on my mind.
So just so everyone's clear on it, so how can people watch My Comic Book Country? Did I say that? My Comic Shop Country? Yeah.
My Comic Shop. That's
Shop
okay. Most
Country,
people, a lot of people substitute book for shop. But yeah, so My Comic Shop Country, you can rent or buy it on Amazon or iTunes.
Oh, great.
Nice.
It was on iTunes. I could have watched it there. I did Amazon.
Okay. I mean, the price is the same on both.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, this is no pandering at all. We definitely highly recommend anyone watching it. I mean, buy it, watch it a couple more times. I mean, I probably should have watched it 2 more times before we even spoke.
Should have. Yeah.
I definitely want to go back, and I'm reaching out to all those guys because I tell them that I love their work. Mm-hmm. Do you have any other projects going on that you want to share now, or that you have your eyes on for the future?
Documentary-wise, I'm really giving a lot of thought as to what the next subject is going to be, and I don't have that yet, so I don't really have anything to tease on that front. But podcast-wise, My Comic Shop History, we have 5 seasons that are out, and that's on Apple Podcasts and everywhere else. And the first season is all about the closing of alternate reality, so we really get deep into that, and then we expand out from there. So, if people watch the movie, if they like it, I think they would enjoy the podcast. And then at the end of the year, I am going to be starting up a Superman podcast series, which I'm excited to do, and I feel like it's a long time coming. And I kind of held off initially when I first started podcasting, and I really just focused on the comic shop world because I was like, I feel like I have something a little bbit unique and specific to share. And I'm like, there's so many comic book podcasts, Superman podcasts, but I'm at the point now where I just want to do it. He's my favorite character, and I really want to explore why. And kind of share those stories that shaped my fandom, and also take the opportunity to delve into stuff that as much of a Superman fan as I am, there's plenty of stuff that I never watched or read, and this is now a perfect opportunity to do that and share it. So that'll be coming around the end of the year.
Nice.
That's cool.
If you have any people that you want to talk to in terms of the Superman super fans, let me know, because I
got one.
Not just myself, but I know a lot of other guys too who are super fans.
All right, good. We'll talk then, because that'll be great.
All right, that's awesome. So guys, definitely make sure you check out My Comic Shop Country, and listen to Anthony's podcast. I'm sorry, say the name one more time.
My Comic Shop History.
All right, so it's very easy to remember. This you change history and country, right? Is that it?
There you go. Yep. Got to keep that branding consistent.
Awesome. Well, good luck to you, Anthony. This is really cool. thank you again for making that the documentary. It was amazing, and we found
really
it
cool,
very interesting. We hope everybody else goes out and watches it as well.
All right. No, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the kind words, and thanks for having me on. This was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
We got to give a
thank
shout
you.
out to Jeff Bondock.
Yes, we do.
Yes, he did.
us in touch.
He did bring all this together. We gave him a little
Shocking.
plug in the beginning of the episode too. That we thanked him. We love him. We pick on him. He's definitely. I don't know. Sorry, it's us. We definitely pick on him a lot. he's an easy target, unfortunately.
Very easy.
The thing about Jeff is he's my best friend from law school and one of my best friends generally. And as far as we all have like the different aspects, right, of our lives. And so for me, I went to law school, and now I'm the director of admissions at the law school I went to. So there's that whole side. And then there's the comic book fan who does the podcasts and documentaries. And it's a very, very small group of people who are part of both of those worlds. And Jeff is one of them, and he came to the first screening of my first documentary when we were in law school. And, he's been here now with this one too. Really good guy. And I'm glad that he was able to help connect us.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, I'll make sure he's employed for another week or two.
All right. Thanks
I've got that power.
Yes, you do. All right. Thanks again for joining us, man. This was awesome.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Take care.
All right, we're back. That was an awesome interview. What did you guys think about that interview?
I think it was the most awesewest time I've ever had doing anything.
It was cool. So that was.
It was even better than the movie.
that was Anthony.
Desiato.
Desiato. Got to catch this documentary, My Comic Shop Country. You can catch it on any of those video on demand shows. Mm-hmm. But it was awesome. I really liked it. I want to, I would definitely see it again. Just to have it on in the background.
I totally don't know what I expected going into it, but I loved it. Absolutely. Goes to a shop every Wednesday. You gotta catch it.
Oh yeah, we should do one next.
let's do it.
Why not?
Yeah,
we'll do we can do a Kickstarter. Right?
Get Billy Tucci on board to give away art for us.
There we go. We can do that. But no, that was cool. And we, again, thank you very much, Anthony, for sitting with us. That was pretty cool. And I'm glad, he took some time away to chat with us.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun. Thank you again.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to go back to one of our fun segments. I think we've only done this once so far, but we're going to play Unpopular Geek Opinions. Who wants to take it away?
Why don't you? You got a lot.
No.
Fine. I will. So, my first unpopular geek opinion is I think that Doc Ock is a much better villain in the Spider-Man universe than Green Goblin. Enough Green Goblin. We've had enough. Doc Ock is far superior.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you just because of that story.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've always liked him as a villain. I feel like he's always tested Peter more. I feel like what the heck's his name? Norman Osborn. He's just always like killing people. It's just like I feel like it's almost like annoying. Like they not overanalyze. They like I can't think of like how I want to phrase it right now, but I feel like they put like too much emphasis on like what he's doing, and he's got like these like secret motives, and he's got like these grand master plans, and it's just like they get like boring.
Yeah.
I've always liked the interactions. Even again, like I'll say it again, I've read all Amazing Spider-Man, but I've always enjoyed his interactions so much more. Maybe the very, very early stuff with Green Goblin was cool before you found out who he was, but after that, it lost kind of all its appeal.
I'm in the 60s right now reading it, Amazing Spider-Man, and the Doc Ock stuff is much better, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Even this early on.
And I always think it was. The only time I thought the Green Goblin stuff was really good was before you found out it was Norman.
Yeah, it was kind of crappy after that.
Yeah.
Although that issue, the number 40 was 39 and 40, that 2-issue arc where you found out it was him.
Yeah.
When Peter found out it was him.
Right until that arc was over. Then it was like,
Yeah.
And then they gave him like amnesia, right?
Mm-hmm. Because he totally like when Peter was beating the crap out of him or whatever in the fire, he totally forgot who he was.
Yeah.
So Peter was like, "Oh, this is convenient."
What's great is I have no saying this because I have no idea. I don't read that. The only thing I can base this on is the movies. I love the Doc Ock in the movie. The guy that played him, he just played it so well in the movie. What's his name? What's his name?
The guy who played him?
Yeah, played him in the movie. That older guy. I really like that. I like the character in that movie. I don't know enough about him in the comic books. And same thing with the Green Goblin. I mean,
in the movie, the Green Goblin was superior, farly superior, in my opinion.
Than Doc Ock?
Yeah.
William Dafoe compared to the other guy, Alfred Molina is
Alfred Molina.
Yep.
William Dafoe should have been the Joker at some point. That's how good William Dafoe is. I love William Dafoe. All right, that was my rant. I'm
gonna stay in the same vein with Spidey.
JJ's got nothing to say.
No, because I'm like 60-something issues into Amazing Spider-Man. Steve Ditko created so much of the early stuff. Stan's even said that he wrote a lot of those stories, and Stan just kind of came in and filled dialogue. But Romita's art is 100,000% better in every way, every single way.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even go back and read the Ditko stuff anymore.
Yeah. Listen, it was like we were saying when we interviewed Jimmy Palmiotti. He was a great storyteller. Like, panel to panel, he was really good at that. He was not any way near as superior an artist as John Romita, though. John Romita was much better, like, clean artist. Like, his lines were clean. It's just, it looks like you were reading like an upgraded book. It's almost like going from the Golden Age to the Silver Age when you go from Ditko to Romita. Romita, hands down, my favorite Spider-Man artist.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple guys who come close, but only because they try to draw as close to Romita as possible. Like, someone who took over right after Romita, I forgot who it was. I wish Bojo was here. He would know the name. But whoever picked up right after him tried to model his style completely. And
did it work?
Yeah, I think so.
Those I haven't read them yet, but those covers in the hundreds are awesome.
Listen, it gets really good. It gets really good until the late 80s, I would say, the mid to late 80s. It's really good. All through the 70s, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. What about you, JJ? You have one?
I'm still thinking. I didn't have enough time to prepare for this part.
I'm almost happy that you do. You don't have one right now because I want to follow up on what you said. And this is probably also an unpopular opinion. And it's very closely related to yours. I think JR, John Romita's son, is a little bit overrated.
He's a little bit.
So I don't mind his Spidey stuff. I actually think it's not bad. His Superman stuff, and I just picked up my weekly books this week, and he did I don't know if it was the Action Comics or the Superman Comics cover. I don't like his Superman at all.
He did Superman was the book he did when he jumped onto DC, right? A couple years ago. I remember being so excited to pick that up, and I opened it. I was reading. I was like,
yeah, it's like very like box. It almost looks like Kirby art, but not good Kirby art.
Yeah,
and I love the guy. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And there is some of his art. And I think I spoke to Bojo about this at one point. He changed his art style for sure because he was like trying to draw like his dad for a while. And then he tried to change it to like his own twist. And I'm not that big a fan of it. That wasn't even on my list, but I meant to put it on my list, and you bringing up John Romita Sr. reminded me.
That's fair.
Not a fan of the Superman.
No, and he has credits to that like other guy. So one of the books where he like has this like supernova power where he like bursts out all his energy, but then he goes powerless. Like he was part of that arc. Like he co-created like the character that came from. I forgot who it was, but it's just it's a shame. I wish he would go back to his old style.
Yeah.
Do you have any more? Maybe we'll change it up from
I got one that's very unpopular, and I don't know if you'll agree with me actually. I've owned one. I owned a nice copy for many years. I love the cover. I love the character. and I think people always will. But I think that Hulk 181 has no business being as expensive as it is whatsoever. No chance in hell.
I'll be honest.
Agreed.
I don't think it's that unpopular of an opinion. I think the problem is that the market's just moved on it, and it's just everybody wants one, and I think people are hoarding them, and that's why anytime one comes up for sale, people are just buying it because they're like, "Hey, as soon as somebody gets announced as Wolverine, I'm offloading all of these."
Do you know if you had?
Go ahead.
Do you know how many are graded on the census?
Thousands. What, 45,000?
Not that many, but 13,000.
That's
which is massive for a bronze book. It's
Yeah,
more
I
than
mean-
it's more than any silver book, I think. More than most modern books.
the problem is though. It's always gonna be a money book.
Yeah,
The thing is, when you think about it, in terms of comic books, without a doubt, and people can argue with me all they want, he's their second most popular character.
next to
behind
Spider-Man.
Like I can't even think of like another. Like you want to talk about the movie stuff?
Mhm.
Like yeah, like Iron Man was huge. People still aren't buying Iron Man.
Mhm.
You can probably get a nice Iron Man book cheaper than you can get a Hulk 181,
Mhm.
and that's a Silver Age book.
Mhm.
It's just.
It's not even slightly rare, is the thing.
But
No.
you know what the thing is too? A lot of people want. There's a lot of higher
right-
graded ones too. Like,
There's a ton.
there's tons of low grade ones, but people all want a nice high grade copy of that book.
Mhm. There's easy.
I'll wait
I'm
for
just doing quick math in my head, but there's 2,000 copies graded 9.0 or better.
Yeah. Listen, and that percentage wise, considering it's still like a 40-year-old book, right?
Mhm.
Pretty much.
Mhm.
That's a pretty big percentage.
Mhm.
The thing is that when I think it's going to dip is once everyone who's hoarding them
Sells them.
sells them, that's when you're going to start coming down
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, well, I wanted a 9.0 and now there's 700
Yep.
up for sale.
Now I have my pick.
Yeah.
You know, and I think 13,000 graded. How many do you think are raw sitting places? You know, people probably have boxes of them in their basements from
Yeah.
when they came out. People
Yeah.
probably bought a short box of them and they're just still stowed away somewhere.
I don't know how many are still raw though. I feel like as soon as someone who knows what it is finds it, like it gets graded immediately.
Mhm.
So I would be.
I've seen
surprised.
lots of pictures on Facebook and
Mm.
IG with people having hundreds, a lot. I'm going to say hundreds, but a lot of ungraded ones.
Mhm.
I mean, they have stacks of them.
I don't know, just me personally, unless I got it for an incredible price at the right time, you wouldn't catch me dead with that in my collection. I don't trust it at all. I might be incredibly wrong, but
See,
I don't
that's
trust
the
it.
thing. I trust the book. I don't trust
I don't
paying
trust it to
super-
hold this value.
super high price now. The problem is it's very high right now. It's probably at its peak.
I would not buy one now, is the thing.
Once they all go up for sale. But I can see it after that. It'll go back up. Like I think it'll get back to the value now and probably stay there for a little while. Like after it nosedives at some point. But I wouldn't be scared off from that book. It's still the second most popular character. It's basically like having the DC the Marvel equivalent to the first appearance of Batman, if you think about it. Because Superman's obviously the best DC character. No, that was a good one. I think
Interesting.
that's a highly debatable. I mean, almost as debatable, and like I won't make this my talking point, is the fact that it's really not his first appearance.
No, and that's what pisses me off about it. The 180, like
That I
should be
get.
his first appearance.
That I get.
And
There's
go ahead.
no, I mean this has been debated so many times, and it's
Yeah.
aggravating to read all these debates of people like, no, it's 181, no, it's 180. You know, the first time he's in a book, it's 180. That's his first appearance.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
But if someone asked you, I want to go and read the first time Wolverine had a story in a comic, what do you tell them?
180, and then you start from there. Well, you can start from there.
You really?
'Cause I imagine-
I mean, he
listen-
doesn't have a story though. He's literally at the last panel on the last page.
Okay, I've never read any of that, but I would imagine, me, if I'm going to read a story, I'd kind of like to get, if I'm coming in the middle of it, you kind of want to read a couple issues beforehand to kind of get.
I mean, yeah,
the
the
gist
story
of it.
before is about him fighting the Wendigo, the Hulk fighting the Wendigo, and the next one, like he kind of shows up, like the Canadian government like lets loose Weapon X. And listen, it's
To this day, I have no idea what Wendigo looks like.
oh, he's like
I see his name everywhere on the freaking labels.
he's like a big white, like abominable looking snowman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would love like for someone to publish like what makes an official first appearance, because you guys know I'm collecting Mary Jane. Like I love Mary Jane, anything Mary Jane related. There's like 7 cameos of Mary Jane before it gets to her first appearance.
Because
they listed as,
and then she's in
it's
the last
just cameo.
panel.
It's like first cameo.
But even the one where she's in the last panel and she says face a tiger, that's a cameo, right?
That's considered a cameo. So the first full is the next issue where they go on the date.
43, right? Or 42 or something.
And she doesn't even come on the cover until like 16 issues later. Which is, I mean, because you can't say like, oh, when they make the cover, that's their first appearance. I was like, yeah, but what if they've been in the story for like, 17 issues? You can't say like that's their first appearance as long as on the cover.
She appeared in like the 20s or something.
What's that?
She appeared in like the 20s, but they didn't show her face, right?
Well, her first mention was like in the 20s.
No, I think mention was very early. But remember, she like came over to see Peter and she was sitting on the couch, but she had a hat on or something.
Yeah, it was like a lamp. It was 25.
Yeah.
25. I think before that, like Aunt May says like, oh, I'm gonna get you a date with her friend Mary Watson or whatever.
Mrs. Watson's niece, Mary Jane.
Yeah. But crazy.
Yeah.
all right.
Let's go ahead.
No, I was just, all right.
You have any more you want to wrap up?
I'll do one. Want to wrap up?
One more. You can do one more.
Okay. I'm going to do a positive one because I broke these up into negative and positives.
Of course.
I think William Shatner is a far superior actor than people give him credit for.
Can't comment on this at all. Never seen Star Trek.
What's that? You never seen Star Trek?
Never seen Star Trek, no.
I mean, he's great. Like, listen, he's not bad in it. Like, I feel like that whole, like, pausing when he was talking came a little bit later on in his career. But if you watch, like, I never watched the one where he's a cop. What was that one called?
T.J. Hooker.
Yeah, I've seen, like, little bits and pieces of it here and there. But he was fantastic in Boston Legal. Did you ever watch? He was hilarious. Him and James Spader were the only reason I watched that show. They were amazing in it. Like, I think he was just being Shatner too, which is probably like he's kind of a jerk, which is fine. Like, I'm not speaking to his his personality. I'm just talking about him as an actor. I've always enjoyed him. I've never had any problem with all the crap that people give Billy Shatner.
Listen, when you watch him in those early '60s Star Trek, and then watch him, the TV shows, and then watch him in the movie. I mean, he's two different people in that. He acts differently than he does in the TV show than he does the movies and stuff like that. So
100%. And I loved all the movies too. I loved all the Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought those were great. I mean, obviously in terms of Patrick Stewart, like I love The Next Generation. Like as a show, The Next Generation was fantastic. But I loved the original Star Trek because my dad liked it and he got me into it as a kid. Like Spock, definitely my favorite character from the new one. But I mean, William Shatner was a handsome guy. It was always fun. He always got into like crazy situations that they managed to like tussle their way out of. It was just, I got your back in terms of acting, Mr. Shatner. Even though I hear you're such a nice guy. We won't get into Tommy Miletta's story about him. That'll be for another time.
There you go.
All right. Well, that's about a wrap for us today. Do we have any announcements to make?
AtCon, June, what's that weekend? 26th to 28th.
Mm-hmm. And we will be showing up one of those days.
Yes. Be prepared.
So,
be ready. Come with full pockets, ready to give all your money to us.
Wait, don't spend any money until we come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're really excited about that, guys. Hopefully things are starting to open up. We can maybe we can look forward to some shows happening at some point. We're able to go to our comic shop a little bit more. But things are looking up, and please continue to support us. Spread the word about Don't Feed the Geeks. We are on YouTube now, so if you're watching us, you see this. Tell people we're on YouTube. Subscribe, like us. say stuff in the comments. And we're going to have a lot of giveaways and stuff happening soon. We've appreciated all the, the huge boost in followers we've gotten, and we're going to, pay everyone back who's been supporting us. So thank you guys very much. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook at LI Comic Guys, and at Don't Feed the Geeks. And that's my public service announcement.
Very nice.
Is that all we got?
That's all.
That's it.
All right. So remember, until next time.
Don't feed the geeks!